We have the mitzvah of Bedikath Chometz before Pesach and the mitzvah of Bedikath Maror before Pesach. Which one is bigger? The Ravid says you have to look at the onesh. The one who has a bigger onesh is bigger. What's the onesh of having chometz? Bal yiroel bal yimotze, it's a lav. 1 malchus. Bogs has 5 malchus, 6 malchus according to some. Parsha Shmini deals with macholos asuros, kedushas Yisrael. At the end, Ki ani Hashem ha'ma'ale eschem me'eretz Mitzrayim liyos lochem lelokim, v'yisem kedoshim ki kodosh oni. What is the connection of Yetzias Mitzrayim and bogs? Rashi brings down Tonevei Rabbi Yishmael ha'ma'ale eschem loshon ma'ala gedulo ilemale lo ha'eleisi es Yisrael אלו בשביל שאין מתאמים בשרוצים, כשאר אומויס, די. The bedik of the chasa of every bog get kedushas Yisrael. The difference between a yid and a goy. If a goy eats shrotzim, it will not hurt him. If a yid eats shrotzim, it will hurt him very much. With an ilui. Vayar Hayom Vayonos. Kriyas Yamsov was after the sea saw something. What did the sea see? Vayar Hayom Vayonos. He saw 2 things. Aron shel Yosef. Yosef HaTzadik in Mitzrayim. He was different than all the goyim around him. And he saw the Braise of Rabbi Yishmael. We can say what part of the Braise of Rabbi Yishmael saw? This Braise of Rabbi Yishmael, that Kedushas Yisrael was kedai to take him out of Mitzrayim, they should not be metamet to shrotzim. The Bedikath Maror Erev Yontef is one of the biggest mitzvahs we have today.
If you've ever kept a garden, you're probably familiar with aphids, sometimes called plant lice. They're hordes of tiny soft-bodied insects swarming your rose bushes and killing your green beans. But they also do some stranger things to help themselves survive. Things like pooping sugar and cloning themselves and giving birth to pregnant babies. The 4,000 plus members of the Aphididae family infest plants all over the world, and lots of people think of them as pests. Because aphids suck. Literally. They use their long, slender mouth parts, which work kind of like a straw surrounded by needles, to pierce tender plant stems and suck sap from the phloem, the tissue that ferries sugar and other nutrients through the plant. That sap is a plant's energy source, so a large colony of aphids can damage or even kill a plant by sucking it dry. Not only that, but when an aphid taps into a stem, it injects a tiny bit of saliva and can transmit potentially deadly viruses between plants. They're basically like the mosquitoes of the plant world. Now, plant sap is almost all sugar, so aphids need to eat a lot of it in order to get enough other nutrients. So they end up with way more sugar than they actually need. So much more, in fact, that they actually poop syrup. Technically, it's called honeydew, and lots of insects go totally nuts for it. Unsurprisingly, some species of ants actually set up a kind of farm managing large colonies of aphids to get their honeydew fix. It's a sweet deal for both species because the aphids get ant bodyguards to protect them from predators. Because if you taste like a jelly bean, you're going to attract some attention from things that want to eat you. But the aphids don't just rely on the ants to protect them, they have a few defensive tricks of their own. Their main survival strategy seems to be making a lot of babies, and they're especially good at it because the females are parthenogenetic, meaning that they can reproduce asexually. Instead of waiting to mate with a male in the spring and summer months, a mama aphid can cook up a whole bunch of cloned daughters inside of her. Now, parthenogenesis is pretty common among insects, but lady aphids have another reproductive shortcut. They give birth to live young, sometimes up to a dozen nymphs a day. This way, the aphids don't have to wait for the eggs to develop and hatch, and the next generation is quickly up and running. And in some species, all of those daughter nymphs are actually already carrying more daughter embryos. In other words, some aphid babies are born pregnant. Babies having babies. An aphid mom could be carrying her daughters and granddaughters at the same time. Nymphs that are born pregnant still need to mature to the adult stage before they can give birth, but development can take as little as a week in good conditions, so tens of generations of aphids can spawn in just a couple of months. Sometimes, though, the aphid's environment changes and good food becomes scarce. In that case, aphids can change their reproductive strategy, producing special baby aphids that can grow wings, and therefore have a better chance of finding a new place to live. Most aphids are wingless, which makes sense. It takes a lot of energy energy to build a decent pair of wings, and since most aphids spend their whole lives just on a single plant, they get around just fine by walking. But if their plant starts to die or gets too crowded, some female aphids can start giving birth to offspring with wings. Winged aphids aren't great flyers, but they usually don't need to travel very far, and once they find a new host plant, they'll start a whole new colony. As lush plants start to naturally wither in autumn, some aphids start producing both female and male offspring, so then the aphid colony can start reproducing sexually again. In some species, these sexually viable males and females don't even have mouth parts for eating. Their only job is to make babies. The aphids mate and lay hardy, fertilized eggs that can survive through the winter on host plants. The following spring, those eggs hatch to produce wingless females, and the whole plant-killing, sugar-pooping, rapid reproductive cycle frenzy fires up again. So it's no wonder that aphid infestations are so common. They got some crazy survival skills.
This green aphid is populating the world with herself. She's a virgin, and cloning herself, she produces a genetically identical daughter every 20 minutes. The babies even have babies inside them. So the mother aphid nurtures her granddaughters even before they're born. Such prolific clones bent solely on breeding are easy pickings for others. This solitary wasp is laying her eggs in the aphid's body. And they are a feast for voracious ladybirds. Half the clones are born with wings to accelerate their expanding empire. They disperse in the summer air to colonize neighboring plants. During the good times when plants are growing, each aphid races to copy herself. Males have no place and don't exist. Until later, when autumn draws near. Now the females suddenly switch to producing orange-colored babies. Some will be males. She engineers sex into her offspring because the coming seasons are unpredictable. The next summer might be very different from the one in which she was born. To copulate, the aphids fly off to fruit trees. And when they mature, the females lose their wings, and the males turn as rampant as any red deer stag. Her eggs will overwinter, and as the conditions next spring are unpredictable, she has produced a brood of dormant embryos which all differ from each other. Some are bound to survive. Genetic variability is a weapon to battle with environmental changes. In a perfect and stable world, it's likely all females of all species would prefer to clone. But getting rid of males is difficult once...
Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about aphids. We're going to go over how to prevent them, identify them, and most importantly, how to eradicate them. Prevention. Aphids are most present indoors when there are a lot present outdoors. The aphid can fly when looking for a new home. Sticky traps placed on the floor near the plants and hanging near the top will prevent an aphid infestation from beginning. Aphids are usually gray, but they can range to any color. Regardless of their color, aphids will feast on any part of your plant by biting into the leaf, stem, and bud while sucking the life out of your plant. Once attached, the aphid becomes stationary and fairly easy to spot. A 10x magnifier will be sufficient for positive identification. Female aphids do not require mating to reproduce and will excrete a living female offspring between 3 and 100 times every day. These offspring are hungry. Aphids will suck the sap from reaching your plant's tissue, causing leaves to wilt and turn yellow. After infestation has progressed, you may notice buildup of aphid excretion called honeydew. Aphids will target weak plants like no other parasite. Now let's talk about how to eradicate aphids. Repression. If your plant can survive in a set of conditions, the aphid can as well. So there's not really much you can do to repress aphids. However, there are predators that will specifically target aphids. The lacewing is the most effective and available predator to wipe out aphids. The larvae of this insect tear through aphid colonies ferociously, release 1 to 20 lacewings per plant depending on the infestation level as soon as aphids appear. Their eggs will take a few days to hatch. Of course, the ladybug is also an excellent predator to the aphid and freely available, especially during summer. Indoor gardens may choose to utilize the lacewing instead of the ladybug due to its incredible attraction to HID lights. If you indoor boys use ladybugs, plan on 50%, no exaggeration, of them dying immediately from flying directly into the bulb. Within 5 to 10 days, all the ladybugs will have committed suicide in the HID garden. Now let's talk about manually removing aphids with your hands. This is a very effective treatment against aphid infestation. Once the aphid begins feeding, it is immobile and easily crushed with fingers or sponge containing an insecticidal soap. Alright, and the last method we'll go over are sprays. Insecticidal soaps, pyrethrum, and homemade sprays are very effective. Apply 2 or 3 times daily at 5 to 10 day intervals. I hope you guys learned a little bit about aphids in this video.